Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another video by Cyrus. Today we're going to go and watch the explanation video by Bookish Theory, the song called Amygdala, the D-Day album Amygdala thing. So I hope you enjoyed the video Hegam by Bookish Theory. I love Bookish Theory because of two reasons. First, because of her accent, and the second, because she sees everything in the video, and I miss a lot because of my personality. But what can I say? She compliments me a lot. And it's just fascinating to see things and learn things from her. Without further explanation, let's dive in. Amygdala is a fantastic music video.
In today's video, we'd like to talk about Augusti's Amygdala, focusing on a little breakdown of the lyrics and music video to see what they can tell us about the meaning behind this song. Now, given the subject matter of this track, please be aware that this video might contain sensitive topics that could be triggering to some of you, so moving forward, please proceed with caution. Amygdala is a song written by Jung himself that expresses his desire to erase the painful memories of the past, while also recognizing that this past is ultimately impossible to change. The title of the song refers to the almond-shaped part of the brain in charge of processing memory, decision-making, and emotional responses such as fear, anxiety, and anger. As he explained himself in the road,
most dominantly, it's responsible for the decision part, as I explained it once before in the Amygdala video that I watched earlier. Yeah, Amygdala is a part that it affects your decision-making. And one of the things that is fascinating in the world of psychology is that you can reprogram your amygdala by putting yourself in different positions. And it's a little bit scientific, and it's not really that easy, but you can do that. I mean, like, if we want to just do something great, we can reprogram people's mind to do things that they don't expect themselves to go in that direction. But once your decision making, your amygdala decide to change, you're gonna change.
To D-Day documentary, the amygdala is the part of your brain that helps a person to survive, since it stores the memory of painful experiences. In case something similar happens again, it triggers a strong emotional response that...
How can we watch this documentary by Sugar? Do anybody know that? If you know it, and if you have any link in that regard, please put it in the comments. Thank you.
Is meant to protect you from it. This form of protection, however, can also be disrupted by traumatic events, and in many respects, the song deals with Jung's struggle in dealing with these strong emotions. As we see in a second, Amygdala is a very personal song that talks about sensitive topics about himself and his family. By his own admission, the process of writing this song was a very difficult one, but as tough as it was also an important step towards healing. Bringing up bad memories can be painful, but it also helps you learn from the very experiences
about
that hurt you.
Songs.
Even if everyone copes with trauma in different ways, when it comes to Jung at least, his way of coping with pain is to face it through music. In his live about D2, for instance, Jung actually mentioned a book by Ron Marasco titled About Grief. In this book, the author actually explained that one way to cope with grief is to go in a place you've never been, write down the things that make you struggle, and then throw the paper away as a way to free yourself from the pain holding you back. In the live, Jung explained that his way of doing that is making...
Why does his skin glow?
Music. He puts his pain in a song, then he releases it, and that release has the same comforting effect of throwing the paper away. Amygdala is a great example of this, because even if confronting his pain is very difficult, it's also a process that teaches him how to cope with it. As he anticipated in the documentary, for instance, Amygdala finally explains why the characters from the Città in Hegam have a scar on their eye. This scar represents the trauma and pain that he endured throughout his life, and even if in the video we see that it's self-inflicted, this action has a symbolic meaning in its own right. You see, according to Jung, all wounds and scars are made by the individual, not because we are to blame for our own trauma, but rather because we fail to learn and listen to the amygdala. As he said himself, you can't really avoid the first arrow, and even in the song he's coping with things that are out of his control. He opens up about the accident he had as a delivery driver, his mother's heart problems, his father's liver cancer, and these are all things that were impossible to predict and therefore impossible to avoid. The scare that he gives himself, however, is not really due to the events themselves, but rather to the painful way he chose to deal with them. Yes, you can't avoid the first arrow, but when the second one comes, some people just allow themselves to get hit, and this is what the song is actually about.
You know, this symbol of having a scar on your eye I think evolutionary, it shows that you're a very strong man. You faced death, you look at death in the eye, and you cheat at the death. Because, you know, it's the most, eye is a very important organ in our body, and you have a scar here, like a scar made by swords. So if men had such thing before, it was like he's a dangerous man. I mean, he cheated death in the face.
The lyrics in the music video, Jung is quite literally trapped in his own amygdala. He is trapped in his traumatic memories because he is repressing them, and until he does so, he cannot learn from them, thus giving himself a wound every time that his brain forces him to confront them. At the beginning, for instance, the video opens with Jung sleeping in a dark place. That's his own mind, his own amygdala.
Favorite decoration.
But as his memory brings him back to the day of his accident, the song opens by repeating the phrase, "I don't know your name." Right from the beginning, we get the sense that in his subconscious, Jung doesn't really recognize himself in his own trauma. As he travels through the memories of things he wants to erase, he's repressing his participation in these events, and this is exactly why he cannot move on. The more he wants to erase these memories, the more they show up, the more he wants to be saved from them, and the more he gets trapped. This is because instead of accepting that these things happened and try to learn from these experiences, he would like to change them, even knowing that the past is impossible to change. He's haunted by events that he doesn't even remember, like his mother's heart surgery the month he was born, or by events that he couldn't prevent, like the news of his father's cancer while he was at work. These are all things that he can never change, and yet he approaches these memories, try to find a solution that doesn't exist. In the lyrics, for instance, Jung says that he wants to unpack these memories one by one, not to confront them, but rather to see if he could have done something in order to fix them. Throughout the song, he consistently tries to understand if he made the best choice, or the second best, or the third best, but the more he goes down this rabbit hole, the more these memories destroy him. He forces himself to relive those moments again and again.
One thing that I afraid the most when I watch the explanation videos is that if the artists, haven't talked about those concepts, how people can figure it out. So there's two ways. It's very obvious that there are three different ways. It's too obvious that everybody can get it. That's the reason number one. It's a little bit complicated, but a big history of BTS or any kind of explanation that you can explain it as an expert, or you're overfitting the information. Like, for instance, you see me in a very bad mood and you say, "What happened, Cyrus?" And I say, I had a bad day. And you say, "Okay, I think Cyrus is in a bad mood because he had a bad day." And I'm just like, okay, like, what are you explaining here? So you're not actually explaining, but you're describing. And it's a double-edged sword. In explanation video, you should be able to feel or to understand, to recognize the difference between a descriptive video or an explanatory one. If it's explaining, we should learn. But I feel like up to this moment, it was more of a she was describing a descriptive form of content. I just wanted you to know that if ever you wanted to make an explanation video, bear that in mind.
And as his ego splits and becomes more fragmented, the Jung in real life drowns the pain by downing pills. In an interesting visual, we see that the medicine that he is ingesting here actually turns into almonds, and this is a scene that can actually be interpreted in different ways. Since the word amygdala means almond, the fruit in his hand might represent a correlation between the memories stored in the almonds of his brain and him medicating.
Actually, what? Amygdala does not mean... Amygdala is not that almond. I just wanted you to know. the amygdala is an almond-shaped structure. Okay, almond-shaped structure. It looks like an almond, which is not an almond. Okay, it's not an almond. It's an almond-shaped organ. What is this? Since the word amygdala means almond, no, it doesn't mean almond. Don't get it wrong. Almond is almond, and amygdala is an organ.
Between the memories stored in the almonds of his brain and
between the memories stored in the almonds of his brain. No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It is stored in an almond, and amygdala is not responsible for for storing memories. I assume. Is it? That lies in the temporal lobe, lying just beneath the uncus. Yes, the amygdala is diverse and complex in a structure and comprises approximately 13 nuclei. They further subdivide into extensive internuclear and intranuclear connections. It has nothing to do with storing memories. Storing memory? Between of its role in processing emotional information, yes, the amygdala is also involved in memory consolidation, the process of transferring new learning into long-term memory. That's a whole different things here. The amygdala seems to facilitate encoding memories at a deeper level when the event is emotionally arousing. It brings up, like it's a RAM for itself. You want something from back of your mind. You want to remember something. You stored it somewhere that you don't know where it is. Amygdala will go and find it and will bring it to you. That's what amygdala does. It does not store anything in there.
Him medicating. In the video it's implied that he's taking the pills to cope, but the reason why he has to cope is because he has memories in the amygdala he cannot move on from, so the almonds might represent this association. On the other hand, however, the almonds might also be a reference to the book Almond by Song Won-pyong, which is a novel that both Suga and RM were seen reading in The Soup Season 1. In the story, the protagonist suffers from a condition that stops his amygdala from working well, so his mother feeds him almonds to help him develop the almonds in his brain. In the book, however, this doesn't work, and by the looks of it, neither does in the video, because despite of his medications, Jung is still haunted by his past. In the lyrics, he begs to be let out, he wants to be set free from the memories in his amygdala, but in the video we see that every time that he approaches the door closes, trapping him inside of his memory. As the video progresses, his efforts grow, but his failures grow along with them. At the beginning, the door is just closed, then he approaches it and it gets locked, but the more he gets lost in his own past, the more difficult even reaching the door actually becomes. While Jung is overcome by the images of his accident, his mother on the floor, and the illness of his family, he crawls towards the door, but at that point even the space gets bent. The floor becomes a wall impossible to climb, and Jung lays there as it eventually starts to rain. Now this scene can almost be seen as his lowest point, because that is the moment he gives up. The rain washes over him, he's scarred by his own trauma, he's trapped in his own memory, and nothing seems to work. In the video, however, not everything is lost, because through his memory we finally make an important discovery. As I mentioned before, Jung is constantly reliving his accident, which is an event that by his own admission he couldn't even mention. As he recalls that series of events time and time again, the outcome is always the same, but the moment he gets at his lowest point, that is, the moment it starts to rain, the same happens in the memory. This is when something strange actually takes place. In a shocking turn of events, the Jungi of the past is able to see the Jungi of the present traveling through the memories in order to warn him. This works. Jungi avoids the accident, but when he finally gets to his front door, the door is locked and he cannot get in. Now this is the bottom of the entire situation here. The door that past Jungi is trying to open is the same one the present Jungi cannot open either. If we look at the previous scenes, we discovered that the past was knocking on the door of the amygdala all along, and it's this very interaction that elicits this emotional response.
Interesting.
The present Jungi calls out to his past self.
That is what explanation should be all about. I like that. I just besides one thing in the music video.
Because saving him would mean saving himself. In turn, the past Jungi comes through because it's a memory encoded in the amygdala, but its presence is the very thing that haunts his present self. By the end, we see that this struggle has no resolution because Jung is still trapped and it's still raining. Throughout the song, however, there are quite a few hints that imply a more hopeful epilogue, because by the end he not only understands that the past cannot be changed, but also that what didn't kill him actually made him stronger. Even if it's still painful to remember the past, Jungi was eventually able to learn from it, so as he slowly lets go of his trauma, it begins to bloom again like a lotus flower. Now him comparing himself to a lotus flower is very significant here, because the lotus flower is a choice with a lot of implications. For one, the lotus is a water flower that rises from the mud and blooms without stains, thus symbolizing our birth that is pure despite the dirt it comes from.
Look
it's
at the
a flower
time-lapse.
that is known for its resilience and strength, and in many Eastern culture, it's also considered an important symbol of spiritual awakening and enlightenment. Jung seeing himself as a lotus flower implies a change for the better that, yes, might not be portrayed in the video, but is there nonetheless. Since the song focuses on his past trauma, the video shows his experience in dealing with those painful memories, but as I mentioned before, the very fact that this song exists means that he found a way to cope and find comfort. As he said himself, the album is called D-Day because it's a day of liberation. In Hagum, we saw him getting liberated from unwanted bans and opinions,
Day of
but in
liberation
Amygdala we see the
of
initial
Korea?
stage of him
From
getting
Japan?
liberated from the trauma of his past. To know if this
assume,
is
right?
the last we'll see of August D, we'll have to wait and see. But
search
in
it
the
pretty
meantime,
soon.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And
Okay. Only one problem. The misinformation. I think. I mean, like, if any of you know more than what is in the Google and what is in here and what I explain, if you know more about amygdala, I would really love to know from you, which is something I'd love. That would be great. What did I want to? Oh, the Liberation Day of South Korea. Yeah, the National Liberation Day of Korea is public holiday celebrated annually on 15th of August. In both South and North Korea, it commemorates a day when Korea was liberated from 35 years of Japanese colonial rule. Yes, I just got that pretty straight. All right, that was fantastic. I mean, it could be a lot more better, apart from the part that I felt like the video was more descriptive. I expected it to be more explanatory, like bookish theory could explain more rather than just describe what was going on. And I hope it's not really going on the edge of overfitting information. Overfitting is not really interesting to me. All right, thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it. Share your ideas if you want me to watch any specific video. I would love to know that in the comments, and subscribe if you can. Love you. Take care.